definitely wasn't gone for that long. I mean, what was it, like, a week? Maybe 2, okay? It definitely wasn't for that. I definitely wasn't gone for that long. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I would have known, okay? Oh. Oh. Okay. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Welcome back to Pirate Adventures. A few months ago, I had this great plan to play the most fun niche games where you play as a pirate. But it turned out there was a catch. These games were mostly buggy, probably unfinished, and most likely insane. And this is a story of how this was a horrible, terrible mistake. The very first game I played was called Tides of War, which sounded really, really fun until I actually played it. I were unable to move or play, but I were able to put a lot of French as my designed enemy to fight against. So I guess there must be some points for that. Someone might ask, why were you not able to play? Well, I were not able to play because of very strange controls, UI, and general lack of explanation of how to play on any online platforms. But if someone is into that, it might be a lot of fun, I guess. Short Fuse is next, very fun title that reminds me of simpler times of the mobile game market of 2012, back when games were genuinely fun, creative, and actually made good ads, usually with a lot of care put both into script and animation. Compared to ads these days, it just makes me think we're evolving back to bacteria. But this isn't a mobile game, as of right now. It's a very, very fun puzzle game that includes a trial of black powder and a flint. And I know that alone sounds like a lot of fun both in real life and in any game of your choice. But in this game, that's the whole game. And I've nailed it. Your job is to get those funky little coins, doubloons if you will, and they're really fun to collect. There are a lot of quick, sharp animations to send dopamine right into your brain, so there is no need for Subway Surfers gameplay footage on the right of the screen. Yes, it's that fun. Even the main menu is like a Swiss Army knife because it combines both the starting level and a tutorial. What a fantastic game design. I love it. But unfortunately, I failed to beat it the first time I opened the game, so I will have to reduce some points for that. But worry not, because the game gets bonus points, because when you finish the tutorial, the game just blacks out and you get a brand new barrel of powder for free. And after the tutorial, I noticed that the music is very swangy-wangy, shwibbity-dibbity, if you will, and I like it a lot. Have in mind you have very limited supply of powder. You will not feel it at first, but in later, harder levels, you will. And that will force you to beat them as fast as possible. And I think that's a great tool for engagement. Unlike my videos.
Ted, you might wanna...
After beating the first actual level, I understand that the only goal that counts in this game is getting coins by using black powder. Just like in real life, the first 4 levels were almost exactly the same, the only thing differentiating them being different placement of said coins. I also noticed that you cannot cross certain objects, like cannons, which would make sense. But only at level 5 I finally understood that the powder is not fleeing from your cursor, but from little fuse dangling from it. That realization took me a little too much time, and I failed level 5, but I finished it right after, understanding how this cheeky mechanic works. Then the barrel got introduced, and can you guess what it does? Yes, Jimmy? It probably explodes? Well, would you look at that, Jimmy? You're in fact correct. The explosion collects each element that is inside of a barrel's special ring of influence at the moment of said explosion. And that took me some time to understand. There are 11 levels in total, so getting into level 9 made it 9/11 show at the left corner of my screen, and that did not make me smile, not even a little bit. At level 9, skulls were introduced, and I immediately understood my assignment. Do not touch them. But my monkey brain won, and I want to see what they do anyway, and the result was quite disappointing. There was just a close-up of a skull. That's it. Skull jumpscare. That was it. The very last level just spelled THX. It was not very hard at all. It was just a special thank you from the developers for playtesting the game. A little kiss in the cheek for completing all of the levels. And I really appreciated it. I really want to see more from where that came from. Do you remember Bloons Tower Defense? I love it. Honestly, one of the best games out there. But it's not very piratey themed. It could also use a little bit more pixel. But fear no longer, because it's time for another great tower defense game. Red Skull Mist is a game with just one map and one very addicting, repeating gameplay loop that consists of randomly mashing random towers to upgrade them in desperate attempt to somehow spend your income with doubloons. Game does not explain anything to you. You click play and you play. The first and the cheapest thing that I discovered is the cannon that shoots from 4 sides. It's quite solid and I like that. It's quick to deploy and it takes very little space, so you can do what I call a special island, which I feel entirely by those little turns, since 2 can fit on a very little space, and that means double the damage, because any other construction fits just once. I also quickly met the IQ requirements for this game, since I quit it 4 times, accidentally clicking arrow back, foolishly assuming it will take me back into the game, not back into the menu. There is also the big boy cannon, which is quite solid, but it only shoots in one direction. So I decided to put it at the very top of the tower I'm defending. Very literal tower defense game, am I right? There's also the platform that allows you to place it so you can place other constructions on water. Very convenient for those 5 places and the whole map that you can actually place it at. There's also the harpoon that shoots in each possible direction, but does very mid damage and it has very limited range. In general, very limited construction. I was very disappointed with it, and I did not really place it that much. Then there's my favorite and most cost-effective weapon of mass destruction in the whole game. Remember the 4-side gun from earlier? This is its older brother, the 8-side gun. It shoots consistently in all 8 directions at the same time, dealing very decent damage. And then there's a silly Scully Boy statue that was also quite disappointing. Most expensive structure in the entire game, but not only it's limited in range, has objectively small pull in which it activates in, and even when it does activate, the only thing it does is it decides to put an electric eel in water using Tesla coil beams as its only line of defense. I don't really like it. Very expensive, very weak. Even when upgraded, it's not worth the price of 3,000 doubloons. You can buy 2 skulls that do practically nothing, or 3 times the 8-gun tower that can clean the entirety of the map all the time from any place at the map, while also doing more damage. And then there's the economy spine of your gameplay, the treasure chest. It will give you doubloons at the end of each round. There's no physical way to tell when a round starts or when it ends, but you will get the hang of it. They're all pretty short anyway, so you'll practically get a new cash flow every few seconds to spend on upgrades and new towers. It is also worth to mention that after you upgrade any building 3 times, you can still upgrade it for in-game effect, but it won't have any visual changes. First 3 sprites, it's all you get. After that, you just have to imagine it's upgraded. There are a lot of ships, each having different levels of thickness to them. So, understandably, ship with red skull on its sails will withstand more damage than a little kayak, right? Wrong. Those little shits made me lose 3 times in a row. They're so fast they simply dodge the bullets. And by bullets, I mean 21-inch cannonballs made of solid iron. Somewhere around the middle game, I noticed that my screen is covered mostly with fire and cannonballs. And lack of vision is not my only problem because of it. The game starts to lag, and I can only hopelessly pray it stops before the kayakman arrives. My general strategy consists of placing first 3 cannons at each of my entrances to the tower, building a treasure island full of just chests that would generate me a passive income until the end of the playthrough, and fill the rest of the map with 4 and 8-gun towers. Upgrade them until the enemy comes faster than I can match the upgrade button. Overall, pretty fun game. The next game I played has a lot of pretty pixels, and it's called Pixel Pirate in Bits of 8. And guess what? It's pretty accurate because you're in fact playing as a pixel pirate. Who would have thought? I started the game being chilling at the beach, being chilling to the Commodore 64 music vibe, watching beautiful 3D model of a palm tree, and then I needed to move, pick up my clothes and wear them because the game told me to. Even though I had a tutorial of movement at the very start of the game, it was not very clear, so I forgot it instantly, and first 5 minutes of the game I was learning how to jump, crouch and roll respectively. I also learned pretty quickly that you can jump very high, and you are also able to combine jump and roll for the supersonic flamethrower move, which I really liked. After getting off my island, I were trying to talk to people I came across, and they usually said one very simple sentence and nothing after that, so it's pretty much just like in real life. After numerous attempts to break into any of those buildings I came across, it turns out most of them are closed and will be opened only after completing the game, which was expected and disappointing at the very same time. I also found this little version of 7-Eleven, but this time it's 8-4. And it makes me think of 9/11. What a fun game. I jumped, crawled, and rolled my way through the city, just to meet a fellow telling me that I need to pay my legal fee to be able to use my own private property. So naturally, I want to throw cans and bottles at him. Unfortunately, Devs did not think that would be a viable option. So defeated, I started looking for coins. And unfortunately, it was never explained how you get those coins. So I got back from where I started, looking for any reasonable clue just to find nothing. Then I remembered that the only thing I'm able to do right now is talk to people, boring, or lift barrels. So instead of being social, I chose the natural, superior option by trying to do something with barrels. I tried throwing them around, lifting them to certain places, but nothing worked. Then I accidentally smashed my keyboard and hit one of the barrels. At that moment I noticed very visible twitching, meaning my head actually did something to the barrel. So I hit it repeatedly until it eventually broke apart. And would you look at that? Coins! So I just picked them up, because if someone left some coins in the barrel, they must have been for me, right? But I'm a pirate, so who cares anyway? I quickly destroyed all other barrels on the map, and with my newly discovered knowledge, I came back to the nasty old man that gave me that ticket. I paid him, and I were able to go into that island with a skull on it. After getting there, I instinctively smacked the nearest box and got myself a saber. Without actually reading anything, I decided to mash my keyboard and speedrun through the entire map just to see if it would work. And it sort of did. And sorta not, because I found a chest that has a lot of coins in it, and I thought that was it. I found the treasure, and I could go back to my boat. But when I went back, I could not find any option to move forward. So I went back again to see what I missed. And it turns out I missed another chest filled with coins and a huge golden duck, which apparently is also a gate to another room. Then I also found a fish that shoots bullets from its mouth, and we instantly became friends. We removed a bunch of skeleton spines together, dodged a few traps, climbed on the very top of ancient ruins just to find 2 bonus chests. Nearing the gate, I accidentally picked up an anchor, which is objectively worse than a fish. And then I fought an octopus that was more annoying than any other obstacle I fought today. Well, maybe with the exception of the kayak man from earlier. Octopus collapsed after a few very swift strikes into its tentacles, and that's it. That's the game, at least for now. Now I will be playing a game I genuinely forgot the name of. Alzheimer's or autism, you call it. When I installed it, I instantly started playing it too, since there was no menu, and each time you die, the game forcefully quits itself. I was also very surprised by how loud the game is when you first started. For some reason, I always started with 1 bonus coin spawning right next to me. So I figured out you can get more coins by sinking other ships, since you cannot get anything for just 1 coin. I tried it, and the experience was not very enjoyable. And the second time I tried it, I was spawn camped by a large ship with 8 cannons. But the third time I tried to get that 1 kill, I finally... No, of course I did not get that 1 ship, because just when I were about to sink one of those ships, they simply faded through map into the green slop territory, where all AI units can go, but I'm unable to. But I were not about to give up just because of that. So I tried it over and over again, until I got my first kill streak. Just to fail it, try it one more time, and uninstall the game forever. New Horizons is the first 3D pirate game that I've decided to play today. And at the very start, I was very positively surprised by the camera angle devs decided to go with when you first start the game. After that, I've discovered that you can practically be the reverse Jesus and walk underwater, without needing any air, obviously. When I came out of the water, it turns out I came out the wrong way, because I practically got my only visible enemy from the behind, before he even knew I was coming. But wait, he did know I was on the island, because not only he's in his battle position with his saber out, but he is also my brother. My own twin brother lost to the sea, that without any explanation or reason wants to slaughter me in the middle of the day. Then I tried pulling out my own saber by mashing every single key, because if you couldn't have guessed, this game does not come with a tutorial either. After perishing once, because he simply did earlier more damage than I did, I respawned with a new devilish plan to trick the hitboxes. And would you look at that, it worked. My twin could not move while I eat up his health bar. And after that I explored the docks, talked to random pirate, and got into the main city, just to find out that it's empty. I tried entering all buildings, but they were all empty. Even the tavern that had the audio recordings of at least 5 people in it while still being empty. It was just emptiness with nothing in it. So I just called it a day and moved into another game. Lanky Larry was a very special experience. I really liked the main menu when I first started it. And would you look at that, it even has a separate tutorial. What a time to be alive. I took my first barrel and tried to play it, just realized that this game has a very limited time to beat it. In this game you're unable to walk, so your only way of moving around is to use a hook and swing from your current barrel into the other one, placed conveniently on the other side of the map. You beat the same few levels all the time at the set time limit until you either fail or collect set amount of coins by finishing levels before time or by collecting coins that are in your way to another barrel. I started at Pirate Cove. There I had to learn basic swings, jumps and flips, and I still failed the first few times I tried to do it. My mission was to get 1000 coins so I could move into another map. And after a tiny bit of struggle, I managed to do it, just to unlock Mossy Barrel in a new map, located in Brazil. Brazil was slightly more difficult, but still pretty understandable after we got the hang of it. And just after a few tries, I got the 4500 points needed to beat the map and move into another one. Relieved I could finally leave Brazil, I got into Montana. Not much of an upgrade, I know, but still better. I also got an oak barrel, which looked pretty neat. Montana was naturally very cold, and most fun out of all other maps, just because I love cold weather. Beating it took me a while, but after I did it, I realized I might have got myself in a bit of a trouble, bit of a pickle if you will. Because after getting to the last map and trying to beat the very first single level for 5 minutes straight brought me some very unfriendly and negative thoughts. And that's how my adventure with Lanky Larry ended. I still enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to see the full game. After Lanky adventure, I woke up on an island, and the very first thing that I noticed was not only that I was able to see my own legs, but the Galaxy Brain devs decided that the best way to experience their game was to let me see my own insides as well. For the first few minutes, I jump around an island for a while, and then I look at the top left corner of my screen just to see 2 bars, courage and stamina. I approach the nearest rum bottle, gulp it in a second, just to see my courage go up. Just like in real life. On the beach itself, I was only able to find a floating rock and a torch. Sadly, I was only able to pick up the torch, completely unaware of what it does. Then I found a map. I picked it up and quickly realized that my mission is to find a treasure. Who would have thought? So I went down to the marked destination, just to be jump-scared by the piano, and then by low-poly 3D skeleton models. Repeatedly, multiple times on several occasions, while also running across the entire map trying to find what was marked on the map I saw earlier. In around that time I also finally figured out what torches do, and why I need those torches. Because when Flying Skelly touches you, you lose courage, but when a flame from a torch touches them, they lose all of their molecules from their body and fade away in the mist. I also stumbled across a cross, with hopes of it giving me some courage, because it was glowing bright blue, just like courage does, but unfortunately it does nothing. I think. Intentionally, I think the main goal of this game was to dodge as many of those pirate bodies as possible, because they spawned those ghosts. But why would I do that if I have practically infinite supply of torches on an island and a simple touch is enough to make them all go away in the blink of an eye, while not having to worry about any pathways? So I've tried speedrunning the map, and I died. And I did the same thing again, but it worked this time. After a while, I've got on an island from which I could clearly see my destination, but then I have also discovered that I was unable to swim time. And each time my toes were dipped in water, I magically appeared on the shore again, but with less courage. So I went back, visited the docks, removed a few flying ghosts, just to get to the jumpy rope castle, where I had some troubles jumping over a few stones. I removed more ghosts, and then I finally found the treasure, but there was no key. Of course, and now I need a key. The text just said it would be around, so I looked around the treasure just to realize close is a very unspecified term that could practically mean anywhere on the map. So I went back to the only place I haven't checked yet. The suspiciously skull-shaped rock. And surprise, surprise, it was there. I went back with my key to the chest and I were able to unlock it, and that was it. After all that scares, I really need to relax. So I grabbed my family-friendly pirate game where you play as a cat merchant selling stuff. Sounds cool, right? The second I started it, I got greeted by a very friendly economics college student, explaining to me that I'm supposed to buy low and sell high. And even though the game presented controls very well, it still feels very unnatural. Like, why couldn't you just use arrows to trade instead of some random dots? And why is a button for sailing the same button you use to cancel a deal? In this game, you get 120 seconds to make as much profit as you humanly can by buying stuff on sales and selling when the demand is really high. And ironically, the first time I really tried the game, I got my best score that I was unable to beat later on. The game itself is quite fun, especially if you enjoy Dark Souls, because it's quite challenging. But some people might say, Tedlad, that sounds like a skill issue to me. And you're right, the bare amount of times I were mad because of those controls amazes me to this day. But still, it does not take away the cool factor out of the game, so I still have to rate it 5 tuna cans out of 7 chickens. Next up is Bury X Treasure, and it starts by Captain letting us know that he's now John Wick, and he will peacefully assassinate us if we don't do the job on time. Because there's a bomb on the board of my tiny sloop, and if I don't deliver the treasure into all 7 islands, I perish. There are 7 treasures that I need to hide on all of those islands, and you can only have 3 treasures on your boat at a time. So you only really need to recharge twice, because you don't have to wait for the first treasure to load. Luckily, it's already on the boat. It does not sound that bad, until I noticed that controls are very, very wonky. You have to stay very close to an island just to hide a treasure, which is not that simple if you have a time limit, cannons with surprisingly good aim, together with water whirlpools. I died the first, the second, and the third time I tried it. The whole game is not that long. It took me 10 minutes to beat it, but it's quite enjoyable. I liked it. Did you ever want to find a treasure together with all of your 7 friends, but instead of a normal boat, you just have 1/3 of a deck? Well, if you work in pairs, it might just work. I present to you 13 Jellyfish, a really fun game where you have to move from point A to point B while avoiding starvation, beating other pirates in cannon fights, or beating sea creatures in a saber duel, while simultaneously dodging random rocks that pop up on our path, while also repairing dock in a free time. I still don't know what's the function of that lookout guy. I didn't use him at all in my playthrough, and I've beat the game on my second attempt, even though some people claim it's impossible to beat. Quite a brag, I know. I've started my adventure pretty peacefully, fishing and cooking, occasionally dodging rocks here and there. Then the very first fish approached me, with the intention to kill. Not really knowing what to do, I pulled out the most reasonable option, the guy with a saber, and it worked. Fishman was no more. I repaired my boat and I was back to smooth sailing. But then another fish showed up, I dodged a few rocks, and then I starved because I forgot we live on a sea where we follow a very strict diet made entirely out of oil and fish. So in my next playthrough, I've decided I will just find, gut, and then cook fish while dodging rocks, and occasionally fight. And it turned out just fine. Overall, this was a very fun video to make, and I really enjoyed making it. So I hope to make more of these kinds of videos in the very near future, so please stay tuned.